Sloth, with our form this season, there's been a few question marks over certain people and whether they have leadership in the dressing room and, on and off the pitch. That man who the responsibility kind of falls on is Declan Rice. And there's been a lot of debate recently on social media whether Declan Rice is a natural leader and whether he should be the club captain at 23 years old. And there's been certain situations or scenarios that fans have pointed out on the pitch that people aren't too happy with and don't necessarily think he's a natural leader from. Let's just start with the very first moment he was made club captain. Obviously, Noble was still at the club, so he was, stepping in as vice captain at the time. This season, he's now got the official responsibility of the armband. Do you think it was the right decision to give him the armband?
I'm going to say it definitely was. I think he showed the characteristics in that season that we thought Noble had, and that we saw from Noble across his time as captain. And let's face it, he is by far and away our best player and he's probably our best player since Pyatt. So I think we almost offered him that captaincy as a bit of temptation, a bit of leeway, a make weight in terms of, well, we're not going to sell you, but we want to make you captain. We want to show you that we've got a bit of ambition and also want to sweeten the pie for you. But it's we've got to remember that he's 23, and I think that although there are questions about certain things we've seen over the course of this season, I think we know he's a leader on the pitch, and we see him talk and we see him communicate. And quite often when I go to games, I don't really see that from many players on the pitch. Yeah. I think giving it to Rice was the logical choice because of how little Noble was playing. I think it was. This is not nothing in terms of a disrespect to Noble. It's just, I think we all know why he had that captaincy in the last season, and you could argue that perhaps he shouldn't have had it. I personally think it was a good kind of changing of the guard, but nobody expected this season to be, well, I think a few of us expected there could be issues, but I don't think anyone saw that it would be as it was or as it is. So we've got to remember that at 23 years old, this is a hard period for anyone to captain. See, really, anyone's captaincy is going to struggle or challenges in this.
There was a lot of change, not just on the pitch, but also off the pitch. Noble was our captain for so long and, held all the responsibility, not just on the pitch, but with all the tasks that come with the captaincy off the field. And Rice has said that himself this season in interviews where he's had to, try and learn and try and grow as a captain, not just, in terms of the influence on the pitch, but the responsibilities that come with it outside, which, involves taking care of, players' requests, whether it be like tickets for games, for family, and just small things like that, and just small little responsibilities around the club. Do you think that's perhaps had a small impact on his performances this season? Because yes, he probably has been one of our best players, but it's not the same Declan Rice we've seen for the past 2 seasons.
I think when you look at it, he's the thing is, when we say he's not been the same Declan Rice that he has been for the past 2-3 seasons, I think we're also forgetting that, this side is aging, it's slow, and it's not producing to the same degree either. And I think what we're looking at with Rice is a marginal drop in terms of his performances, and that drop is magnified because of so many of the other members of the side performing way below their standard. If we were picking up points and we had certain goal scorers or even the goalkeeper putting in consistent displays, to the level that Rice is at the moment. I think we'd be much higher up the table. But the problem is that I think this combination of duties and Noble only just come back into the club. Remember, he was given some time off and he's been away for a little while. Having that sounding board in your first full season of captain, we know Noble's probably still going to have been on the phone to him, but it's going to have been a different relationship. You know, he won't have been there the whole time. And I think having that sounding board, having someone you can go to for advice after a game, it's going to be very different. So I think we could say it's had a slight impact, but I think it's only really something we're picking up on because the rest of the side have been as poor as they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think because of last season, you know, he was pretty much captain because Noble, like you mentioned, was pretty much out the side, although he was club captain, but no one was questioning his leadership then. And I think you've seen, even in the tough times this season, people have been saying maybe he's been throwing his arms up or in certain situations, he shouldn't really be doing that on the pitch. But 99% of the time, whenever we concede that first goal, which has been a lot this season, he's been the one to, you know, get everyone to the halfway line, you know, clapping them, you know, encouraging them, everything a captain should be doing on the pitch. So when people kind of question whether he is a natural leader or a captain, I very much disagree. I think he shows all of those qualities on the pitch. Whether we see it off the pitch, we don't know that, but he seems like the type of person that is. And yeah, from on the pitch, from everything I've seen, there's nothing there that points to me that he isn't a good leader. You know, it was just last season people were saying that he's probably going to be the next England captain. And, you know, Gareth Southgate himself spoke about that, about what potential Rice has as a leader in the dressing room. So I think people questioning whether he's a leader is very strange, because I think it's just easy to point the finger at him now when things are going bad and just maybe find a reason or an excuse as to why it's happening. But whether he's a good captain or not, I think it's a stupid comment, because I think he is a very good captain, and he's, you know, still such a young age, just turned 24, and he's always been a natural leader from when he first came into the team, really.
It'd be interesting to see a comparison between him and, say, other 24-year-old captains. I think a lot of people are forgetting as well that, you know, when someone steps into a role like that and they have to be face on with the media as much as they are, I've seen quite a lot of people taking the mick out of, you know, his somewhat similar comments every week. Well, what else do you want him to say? Do you want him to say, you know, I thought we were crap and Moyes' management today really baffled me? He's not going to say that. You're not going to get that from a 24-year-old. And if you do, I bet you the reaction will be he wants to move away. Oh, he's causing trouble. So we've got to kind of remind ourselves that he is a young player, and what he's doing at the moment is the hard job. The captaincy's changed. It's not a case of you can stand in the dressing room and bollock your players after. You're going to have a player sat there who won't respond to that at all, who's going to go, well, I'm annoyed now. And if they're going to throw their toys at the fan, now you can have people say, oh, I don't want that kind of player at my club. It doesn't matter. If that player is talented and is someone who can produce, why do you care if they react in a different way to things? Look at how people are so infuriated by the Ben Rama treatment.
Yeah.
If you're talking, oh, well, that's wrong, and he shouldn't be like that. Well, when you're talking about captaincy, remember this captain has got to play with all of those teammates, and he's also got to lead them. So how do you expect him to communicate and lead with them?
I think what Rice does really well on the pitch, not just leading by, you know, communication and action. It's actually his contributions on the ball and what he does on the pitch makes him such a good leader and kind of sets the tone, because there's a lot of times where, maybe not this season, but a lot of times last season, where he was just performing at such a high level, and it was really driving us on, not just, you know, as individuals, but as a team. It really kind of brought us together. And there's certain things he'll do in a game where he'll make a 50-yard track back and make a really good tackle, which then gets the crowd going, and then, you know, in turn gets the team going. It's that kind of thing where you lead by example, not just with your words. But I think he does both pretty well.
I completely agree. I think the one thing that we can really sort of pinpoint as maybe something that's letting him down as well is maybe he's been given too much freedom. And I think, you know, I've said it before, and I don't want to sound like a broke record, but he's not a box to box. He's not Yaya Toure. And I think almost someone needs to have a sit down with him and say, look, we know you're incredibly athletic. You can power forward and carry the ball well, but you need to be that anchor point. And if you can do that and lead the players around you, that's going to be where you make the difference this season. You know, you can do that at Chelsea. If you want to have that, you've got players behind you who can produce. You've got Reece James. You know, if he went to Arsenal, you know, you've got Saliba, who's, in my opinion, the best young centre back in the world. You've got these players around you who can cover you. But we have Aaron Cresswell and we have Soufal, we have Ogbonna, and it's nothing against them. I thank them for their service, all that sort of jazz that people like to say. But at the end of the day, they are not anywhere near the same level players. And he has, quite frankly, been exposed by that. So maybe someone needs to sit down to him and go, you need to lead this team, but you need to do it as a defensive mid. You cannot go bounding about. You cannot go box to box.
Yeah.
We need to concentrate on that role, and that's what's going to turn this team around.
I think we've seen that as well on the pitch. There's been a couple of cases. I mean, this season, you look at Southampton away when we were 1-0 down, completely struggling for some reason. Second half, it kind of almost felt like, as a fan watching, it was on Rice to make something happen, or something will come from him, which makes no sense because, like you mentioned, he's better as a 6. That responsibility shouldn't be on him, and it kind of just it shows how much we rely on him, not just with like how much he influences other players, but his actual contribution on the ball. And I think that's what's made me realize how good of a captain and leader he is and could be. And like, if he went to someone like Arsenal, for example, and just was that 6, he would be such a good leader on that pitch. And, you know, he would have, like you mentioned, if he went to Chelsea, he'd have the players like Reece James to show those openings and contribute in other ways. But a lot of it seems like everything boils down to Rice at the moment, whether it be, you know, on the pitch performances, whether he's leading enough, whether his performances have dropped because we're not, you know, competing for the top 4 this season. It can't be on him. It makes no sense because he's still been one of our best players, if not our best player this season. So I think those kind of comments of whether he is a leader, which is what this video is all about, is I find it strange. I don't know. What are your kind of summary thoughts on that?
I think to question his leadership is a really small minded view of the issues at West Ham. You know, if you think that one person barking orders at the squad is going to turn this ship around, I think you need to look more in depth at the issue. And that's not me saying that from a sort of Point Dexter point of view. I know everything. It's just, I think there are so many issues at the club that haven't been addressed. I think a lot of it is down to our poor recruitment long term.
Yeah.
And I think if you're pointing the finger at Declan Rice, you really need to think, right, why is that? Because Declan Rice isn't the person who's in charge in terms of setting the side up and bringing new players in. But it's also a case of, as you said, if we concede, he's the first person kind of calling and rallying for others. But he's not a centre back. He's not your left back. He's not your right back. And when we talk about how much we've conceded this season, or how, you know, that lack of creativity is affecting us, a defensive mid is not the person who should be in charge of changing that. And he can help out as much as he can in either of those directions. But at the end of the day, he's not solely responsible for that. He can pick up play fantastically, and, you know, he retains possession really well. And he has been let down by, you know, Souček. He has been let down by Cresswell. He has been let down by a lot of a lot of the other players, and Fabianski as well. Let's not forget a lot of the goals we've conceded. I say a lot, a few of the goals we've conceded, particularly recently, have been errors or have just been really poor judgment. So I think to point the finger at Rice is almost like the easy option, and I think it's just wrong, to be honest.
Completely agree. I think, yeah, like you mentioned, he is a leader. Whether he should be captain or not, I don't even think that should be a question. I don't even think West Ham fans should be questioning him as a captain, because he's shown over the last, season and a half, 2 seasons, that he is a very good captain in both what he does on the pitch and how he also helps others as well. So, yeah, I don't know about that one, but if you have different views, let us know in the comments, because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what you think maybe he isn't good at in terms of being a captain. But yeah, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and yeah, before we go, follow us over on Twitter at Babbling Irons for more engagement and obviously comments on there. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, Sloth. I guess there's one thing left to say. Come on your mind.